sustainable and inclusive growth. So now, please help me welcome the formidable panelists who will help give us some insights into this topic. Firstly, Dr. Mrs. Genevieve Pearl Duncan Ubuobi, Lead Consultant of Tarragon Edge, Ghana. Dr. Genevieve is a seasoned banker, SME consultant, trainer, and an author. She is also the CEO of Genevieve Pearl Consult and a certified personal development coach. Quite interestingly, she was listed as one of the top 40 most inspirational female leaders in 2020 in Ghana. Please welcome Dr. Genevieve. So take a seat on the far left if possible. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Victor Abbey. Dr. Victor Abbey is a corporate strategy and leadership consultant, and he is the CEO of V5 Solutions Limited and managing partner at FV Global Consult. Quite interestingly, I found out that he is a military vet, so thank you for your service, sir, and an author of the book, The Future of Corporate Strategy and Leadership. Please welcome Dr. Victor Abbey. And finally, we'll be joined by a familiar face who we have heard from before, Mr. Farouk, CEO of Premium Africa Holdings. With a strong commitment to Africa's economic growth, I think he will have some fantastic insights to add to this session. Please welcome Mr. Farouk. Thank you very, very much. Oh.
Please, the VP went off due to technical issues, and she pleaded to say goodbye. So we're bringing her online for just 1 minute so that she can officially tell us her farewell roundup. Please just bear with us. Thank you.
Would definitely need the help of every woman sitting there, and also the political leaders that that make up this regional community of ours to stand by us and for us to push forward with one agenda item, which I was trying to explain in terms of women representation, for elected offices. Because I strongly believe that it's just one action amongst many others that definitely would have a greater impact. That would help us in terms of economic development, help us in terms of political stability in our countries, and and also help empower women. And I just wanted to close with those few words, and urge us women to push forward for stronger advocacy. And all the best to you. Thank you so much. It was truly an honor to be on, although virtually, to participate in this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. So we will get into our discussion, and keeping it quite strict with time and honoring the time of our amazing panelists. Before I join you seated, I'd like to kind of put the question to each of you. So briefly, in a sentence, please, could you each state what the future of Africa means to you within your respective industries and sectors, starting with Dr. Genevieve. Production, please ensure that the mics are working.
Hello, yes. Thank you very much. Good afternoon or good evening. The future of Africa. I think this morning a lot has been said on collaboration. The first point I would like to make is that as Africans, all of us, I am very skewed to women in business or women-led businesses and then the youth. The first thing I would like to say is that we should stop working in silos. We should collaborate more. For us women, I want to replace the word competition with collaboration. That is the first thing I want to put across. The second point is, I think we should be knowledge seekers. We should love knowledge. Today I'm looking around and I'm saying that I was expecting a room filled with a lot of people. But tomorrow, if you are here, you would understand what I mean by I was expecting. Because tomorrow at 6 p.m., the whole place will be filled. Because it's an awards event. It's a gala night. It's a dinner evening. We as African youth should seek knowledge. A lot of youth are here. I'm seeing a lot of us young people. I want to challenge you. Knowledge is so common now than ever before. On the internet, we see a lot of things happening. People are using Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook to do so many nice things. But ask yourself, what are you learning from these technologies? We should be technologically savvy as people, as women especially. I'm more skewed to women, so forgive me, the men. I understand perfectly that we all have our roles to play, but I want to focus more on women-led businesses, and that is why I keep saying women, because I believe that the diversity we are all asking for, if you play your role, Farouk, Dr. Abe, and I, Genevieve, and my other fellow women play our role beautifully. It's not competition. We are just asking that we do what we've been gifted to do and to do well. So, knowledge seekers. The last thing I would like to say is that we should be able to negotiate. We should be able to communicate properly. And when I talk about communication, I'm talking about networking, I'm talking about interpersonal skills, how you communicate to each other, how you make me feel valuable. I am not less a human than you are, neither are you more than I am. I might be a doctor, yes, I might love books, I might have studied so much, but it doesn't make me extraordinary. It's just a path I found better and I'm leading that path. You can also find your path in business, in entrepreneurship, in something to do with your hands. Just do it and do it well. And for me, that is how I see the future of Africa. Let's come together, build together as a people, and forge ahead together. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Abbey, please share your insights and thoughts on the future of Africa before we get into the nitty-gritty of our conversation.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know it's been a long day. Most of us would have been wishing to be sleeping by now or taking a rest and all that. But just bear with us. I love the laughter. I could see that on your faces and all that. So it's great. It's great that we are still here. It means that we are all committed to the change we want to see in Africa. I am excited to be here. My first point I want to make, and it's my personal passion and expectation for the new Africa, has to do with the mindset. And the mindset that relates to leadership. We need to begin to understand that leadership is not a position, it's not a title, it is not a preserve for some select few. It's something that should cut across at our own individual levels. What are we doing to contribute to the betterment of society? That, for me, should be the definition or the redefinition of leadership. Because in Africa, we lead by titles. That is why we have so many honorable these, Your Excellency that, do you know who you're talking to, and all that. But leadership goes beyond that. By so saying, I want to say that we must lead beyond certificates. Certificates do not necessarily bring about development. It is what you do with those certificates that matters. You can call me all the titles or all the accolades and all that, but if I don't do anything that is different from what the ordinary person, in quotes, does, what is the difference between me and that person? So it is not about accolades. It's not about certificates. Leadership goes beyond all that. That is a new Africa we should have, and that's my expectation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In the spirit of what Dr. Abe said, it's been a long day. I'll double up, and I think that we will leave here with some great nuggets. I think that the future of Africa lies in our self-awareness and also being able to position ourselves for the global dominance that is expected of us. By default, in terms of whatever is happening in other jurisdictions, the West, recently you hear the commentary about currency, preference in terms of business. UAE and India have signed a very strategic agreement where it allows them to trade in the Indian rupee and then the dirhams. By no fault of us, Africa, we will actually adjust and also begin to appreciate the power of currency when it comes to trade. So as much as we seem unprepared, whether we like it or not, those adjustments was going to happen, because once we see that it's happening, we don't want to miss out on the next bounce of the ball. So an Africa that is fully aware, an Africa where the young people will step up to the plate, an Africa where people will begin to understand that a significant amount of the resources that drive the global economy is situated in Africa. So once we begin to know that, the terms of the negotiation will change. So I'm very confident, I'm excited that I'm already in the process. I've already taken a head start in positioning myself for this global dominance. And I call on everybody here to do same, because you don't want a situation where the dynamics has changed and you are now starting. So this is the time, as entrepreneurs and business people, we need to foresight. We need to look, 5, 10 years beyond, and it allows us to position ourselves. So I keep saying, gradually we are becoming aware of our economic strength. Whether we like it or not, whether political commitment is slow, it's going to happen. So it's for us to be prepared for this change that is going to happen. You can actually feel the pulse of the world. The dollar will lose its strength, and then other currencies will also own their place, and then it would translate into fair trade, more resources towards Africa, and then we should all benefit from it. It shouldn't come at a time where we are found wanting. This is the time to prepare. Information is critical in business, in growth. Data management is also central. We should gravitate towards data. One thing I've observed is that as we sit here today, we exchange numbers. The next thing I go on my Instagram, a suggestion has been made about me following you or something. So there's a certain intentionality behind technology. What is Africa doing so that our case, our scenarios is also positioned in certain jurisdictions? There's something called algorithms. It means that things are skewed in a certain way. Messages are skewed to be placed towards a certain eyeball. So this conversation about intentionality, strategy is very important. This is the time for us to strategize, to position ourselves, to own our place in the world. It's going to happen. So this is the time I call on all of us to strategically position ourselves. Don't just take the call cards, follow up, meet after here, build strategies. Like Dr. Genevieve said, collaboration is the new word for competition. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your insight. So we've heard knowledge, self-awareness, seeking to go beyond certifications. So my first question, just to set the tone for delegates, each panelist will receive one question, and at the end of your responses, because I want to make this session as practical as possible, please end with a call to action for each of the responses, as Farouk has already started to do. So firstly, Dr. Abby, I read in a recent article that you said, this is the time to deliberately take our collective destiny in our own hands with deliberate strategic focus on our own economic agenda. Given that we are all representing to some extent the private sector, how would you advise the private sector effectively collaborate and empower the decisions made internally to position ourselves strategically to take advantage of these changes? Quite a loaded question, but you're prepared, so I'm sure that the delegates will enjoy.
I'm happy you have indicated that it's quite loaded. It's not a question that can be answered in a short period of time, but I will attempt as much as possible to give a succinct answer to it, straight to the point. Over the period, okay, well, before I start, let me just make it clear to all of us, or let me bring it to the fore again, as previous speakers, the previous panelists, and even Farouk has indicated, we are in a world where things are changing so fast around us. Technology is moving at a speed of light, and the velocity of change, even within the political space, not to even talk about the economic or with its implied economic impact. It's changing so fast that we need to appreciate the fact that for us to have effective leadership vis-a-vis economic empowerment or development, there is the need for private sector to innovate and to collaborate. Like Dr. Farouk said in the morning, where a lot of us are operating within our space and we have exhausted those spaces, and we need to go beyond our spaces, reach out to others within other spaces where our expertise or our technical know-how is required. We need to reach out to create value within those spaces as well, so that collectively we are driving an agenda that will inure, in the long run to the benefits of Africa. So innovation is key, collaboration is another, and leadership is also to, be pushed along those lines. Not the kind of leadership we are seeing today, where it is about titles or it's about my position and all that. But let me be quick to say this. Just permit me a second to say that what it means, therefore, is we need to school ourselves or educate ourselves, rather, not school. What we are seeing in Africa, across Africa, is schooling, not education. We need to educate ourselves beyond the classrooms, beyond the papers that we acquire. We need to appreciate the fact that that certificate is just evidence of having been through some walls of learning something. But education should be able to bring out something creative, something innovative. And once we do that, we should have effective leadership, having understanding that this is different, diverse generations today have diverse needs, and we need to satisfy those needs. So that's what I'll say.
Amazing. Thank you so
thank
much,
you.
Dr. Abby. Round of applause, please. So moving swiftly on, Farouk, I noticed that you spoke last year pertaining to the beauty industry. I feel like we haven't yet spoken specifically about any industry. I'm not in the beauty industry, but I found your sentiments quite interesting when I recently Googled quite quickly. And you spoke to the need for the private and public sector to join forces to effectively harness the gains that the beauty industry has kind of projected, specifically pertaining to Ghana. Of course, these sentiments can be echoed across the continent. It's one of the fastest growing industries, as we can see, and it speaks to the issues that we see pertaining to economic empowerment and job creation. With the work that you are currently doing, amazing work, by the way, if that hasn't been already said, could you please talk to quite succinctly to the policy creation, so the need for an enabling environment for beauty entrepreneurs, and I guess one tidbit for any entrepreneurs in the room?
Well, I think the beauty industry is one that is immensely, is huge, ridiculously huge. If you look at, in recent times, the contribution of beauty industry to GDPs is moving to, is about to compete with the oil and the agro space. So all the women here are looking good today based on beauty industry. The cosmetic industry, most of these components that are used to make these products are found in Africa. So for me, in terms of how we able to harness this opportunity from the policy point, is government preparedness. What I think is very critical to any enterprise development is research and development.
Right.
Once you understand that, look, there are so many wigs on the shelves now, what informs this, do we have the resources to be able to contribute to producing these things? How do we direct this production onto our continent so that we're able to leverage and also export? Let's sit down with the importers, the volumes. Is it hurting the economy? If you look at Africa across board, our imports bill it just doesn't make sense. We are just a continent that is just consumption driven. We don't produce anything, we don't export. So it borders on policy. Is like I said, if I'm a president, I'm always gonna have a meeting with the director of the Export Promotion Council. How many containers of raw materials are leaving Africa? How many finished products are also leaving Africa? So it's a conversation about interrogating what's really happening. The cost of producing these wigs, even when it comes to producing bottoms, everything is imported. Simple components that we can harness, we want to import. But I also challenge local entrepreneurs. The hunger is not enough. Let's not, when you recent times, you hear last year, $5 billion came into Africa through the venture capital vehicles. How much is going to the fashion space? Non-significant. It means young people are not fully aware. We just want to be wearing the wigs. We don't want to interrogate what components, what goes into making these wigs. How do we even produce buttons? These are simple. When you go to China, you find out some of these equipments that are used, machines that are used to produce these things, are less than the prices of certain cars. But because we are not concerned, if we live here today and we want to get on the internet and research about the cosmetics industry, what it would take to produce a button, something that goes into making clothes, you realize, but what are we doing? You understand? I have a bias. I don't want to be seen to be venturing into the cosmetic space, but I think it's up to the woman. Yes, you are wearing the wigs. We want you to produce the wigs. We want you to also produce the creams that you are using. Shea butter is a big component. I mean, I'm in the northern part of Ghana. Last month we were there. We were doing research on how to aggregate as much shea butter as possible. We looked up the equipment, the machines that are used to produce these creams. They are not expensive. So we're going there. Me and a couple of partners of mine are going there because we don't want to miss out.
Right.
We have to be annoyed to be able. We have to be annoyed. We have to be pissed off at the numbers. Until that is done, we'll be very casual about development. We talk about it here at this conference. Tomorrow we come to the dinner, we eat, we go back home, and it's just the same routine. Let's be annoyed. Let's own our space. The sort of things we fancy, you go to somebody's house. I'm not saying cars are not good, but you look at the price of one car and said, but this could start a whole shea butter business in the north. Let's be intentional about development, and I think once that is done, we'll do it. This convergence is a convergence of allies. I've met Dr. P.K. here. We've had a conversation. The next evening, we're on a call. We are planning. I find an ally in Dr. Genevieve. I've admired her for the past 2 years. Finally, we are here. We will exchange cards. Dr. is here. So as much as it's quite a small unit, I'm excited. It's about like minds. People chose to be somewhere else, but we are here. So it gives me so much comfort. I don't expect this room to be full. There's a few powerful people in the world, and I need to applaud ourselves for being here today. We made a decision to be here today, so it means that we've all proven to ourselves that we are ready. The hunger is there. Let's continue to build on this. I'm very confident about this continent. I'm not a talker, I'm a doer, so I'm sure that in this space, at times people want to, look, you can dream big. I'm a big dreamer, but nothing stops me from starting small. Nothing stops. I love the beauty of even starting small because it allows me to understand the system, the routine, fine-tune my ideas, so that when I'm going to an investor, okay, I have this, I've done this to this point, I have some sort of revenue bucket to prove to you. When I scale up to this point, it would impact the revenue bucket. So let's do, and I'm sure we'll be able to see the Africa we want. Thank you.
I think bar the specific wigs comments, your call to action was fantastic about research and development and the need for us to look at the value chain and for the need for an extra value add. We're going to be talking about international trade tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll hear much more about that. So my question to Dr. Genevieve, when we consider the future of Africa, entrepreneurship makes up a big part of that, as do MSMEs when we look at economic growth across the continent. I think COVID definitely made a lot of us sit up and kind of think about what that looks like for the future. So my question to you is, with your great passion in supporting small businesses with capacity building, what does your work look like, and a call to action to delegates? how can they further build capacity in their organizations, whether they be in the private sector or running their own businesses?
Thank you very much, Jennifer. So looking in the room, I think I'm seeing a lot of women. And since you said that with my passion for women and small businesses, I'm throwing a challenge out there again. So leadership has no gender. I always say this. You can succeed so well as a woman in business, and you can succeed so well as a man in business. The same way you can fail as a woman in business and a man in business. I think the first thing I want to talk about is that we as women should not feel that because we are women, when we don't understand the financials, when we don't know what it takes to be passionate and actually succeed in business. Here I'm talking about ensuring that there is some sort of sustainability plan, succession planning. We should not see our businesses as, oh, we are just surviving. So we start today just to feed the home, maybe something small to keep, and then that's it. We should look beyond small things. It's good to start small, like Farouk said, but it's good to dream big, dream wild, be angry, be intentional, want to make a difference. And in so doing, you understand that capacity building is not just we coming to sit here and talk, but there is an action plan. And we all go and do our little bit, and then in our own small way, we actually affect other people. The power of collaboration is not just we coming to talk about it, but when I go, whatever I heard in my small team, I'm able to inculcate that habit, and then we start there. So another person starts here, another person starts there, and together we make that difference. Another thing I would want to say is that we as women should pull each other along. If today Dr. Genevieve is up there, and in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I might not have the energy to come and sit here and talk, but probably a young lady there, Afakuma, fortunately, I know her already. So Afakuma, who is very passionate, she wants to volunteer, she wants to learn, she wants to have some attributes of leadership. She's always seeking knowledge. I have to start mentoring her. I have to start coaching her. She should also be passionate about knowing it. I cannot do it all if she's not ready for it. So it's a two-way thing. As I am eager to help her, she should be anxious to learn. She should be ready to make a difference. In so doing, tomorrow she can sit here and also do the same thing that I am doing, or Dr. Abe or Farouk is doing. So collectively, we all have a role to play. And we can only play this role if the mindset, like Dr. Abe said, is well understood. If we also understand that we cannot all be corporate people. Entrepreneurship, private sector is the next big thing. And countries and economies that have scaled up is through privatization. So be ready, be a game changer, be ready to seek knowledge and also implement the knowledge that you seek. When we do that, I think collectively, the value chain will come in. If I'm preparing, or let's say I'm sewing these clothing, I know that, okay, there is something called embellishment. So what I have here, there is a value chain. So if I can sew this very nicely, and I know that, okay, it takes just some small machine to produce these buttons, I could go the extra mile and start producing the buttons. Somebody can also go the next mile and produce belts. Somebody can go and then produce the laces. So gradually, we are affecting the whole value chain. So it's not that I am good with hair, so that's all. But whatever goes into hair, keeping the hair. As women, we have the manicures, we put the hairs on. We have combs that we use in brushing the hair. There are so many things that we can do. So let's not be too myopic. Let's think big. Let's start small, but let's think big and see the bigger picture ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I told my panelists that I will be honoring time, so I'm going to put the final question for closing remarks. And it's one of my favorite questions, maybe quite biased because I am from the diaspora and relocated to Ghana a few years ago. So what role, to all three of you, we'll start with Dr. Abbey, does the diaspora have to play in building forward for the future of Africa? And if you could keep your responses as succinct as possible, I would appreciate it.
All right. For me, I'll just refer to the earlier comment made by the panelists. I think PK made those comments. It's not about just showing or happy about diasporans coming to Africa, coming to their roots. It's about tapping into the knowledge and the skills, the whatever experience they have, tapping into it. And they also understanding that that is the difference they need to make within our space, but not to just come and look at, okay, this is where our ancestors migrated or were taken from and all that. So tapping into their skills and availing their skills or putting at the, exposing it to the continent is something that will be okay for me.
Knowledge transfer,
you.
fantastic.
Sorry.
Dr. Genevieve?
I will take it from the point of money because I'm a former banker. I want us to, just like PK said in the morning, it shouldn't just be remittances for my small upkeep. No. I want us to build something called an entrepreneurial fund where we can actually get people who have innovative ideas to tap into. And then we can get something big out of that. I'm sure if we all believe in these and then we get our friends and loved ones outside, at least every year, you bring me $1,000. Let's put in this fund. The fund is for Africa. The fund, we can start from Ghana. We can start from Nigeria. Let's have these funds available. Collaborate. I am very passionate when it comes to entrepreneurial funding. And I've started a journey, which I'm on. It's difficult. It's been like 3 years. That's actually one of the reasons why I left banking, because of conflicts of interest. I can't pursue this whilst in the bank, so I have to step out. But this is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm calling upon all of us. Let's come together. Let's start in Nigeria. Let's start in Ghana. Let's build a fund that innovators, people who are creative, can tap into. Let's forget the commercial banks. Let's forget politicians. Let's do it ourselves. And I think this is something we can so do and make a difference in Africa. Thank you.
I applaud Dr. Genevieve for the sacrifice, leaving the bank to come and, I'm very excited about the diaspora conversation. It's a big part of it. Dr. PK said $40 billion. If you know what it takes to aggregate $40 billion, you would understand. It's a force. We need that. We need as much as possible compared to the remittance inflows to what we go asking, begging the World Bank, IMF is peanut. So we need to harness this. I mean, like we always talk about, let's build a strategy around it. Let's find a way to bring these people. Akon, American Music Star, is a partner of mine. I'm a managing partner for his Akon Lighting Africa project. We did it across 14 Africa countries. I'm like, Akon, you have reach. You are a force. You have people listen to you. I want us to start a million African Americans back home project. Whilst you're in America, you are building momentum. We want to bring 1 million African Americans back home. What are they coming back home to do? They are coming to acquire homes. They are coming to start businesses. We will start with even building the database. Those who have the interest, just fill a form digitally, and we want to build. We want to know you. Yes, you have the interest to come back home, so that we keep sharing with you the prospects, what is happening in Africa. This is where the policy framework is going. There are opportunities in agriculture. There are opportunities here. So there's a lot of conversations going on. Dr. Genevieve has talked about a fund. I'm excited about it. We'll compare notes, because from the individual point, are you crusading for people to come back home? When people send you money, do you account for it? As much as we want them to come back home, we should also show some level of seriousness. We are prepared, and let's find a way to bring these people back here to invest, not to send us, peanuts, but actually to join us to harness these opportunities that prevail here. The diaspora bloc is a very powerful bloc. I need to commend this government of Ghana. I see that there's a lot of efforts to really systematically bring them home. So we are also doing our part, and I'm sure that, yes, we'll be able to convince a lot of them back home. They come to an economy that is ready to accept them. And I don't know who is listening to this, when they are coming back to Africa, they should come back with that white wealth mentality, not a black mentality where all we do is show off our wealth. We want to have that kind of wealth, generational wealth, not wealth that is shown in chains, but shown in share certificates, own big enterprises, own 5% of a $1 trillion company. That is what we want to see. So diasporans shouldn't just come with the money. They should borrow that white wealth kind of money-making mentality and bring it home, so that, yes, we grow, we all see the Africa that we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Farouk, Dr. Genevieve, and Dr. Abby. I think you've all shared some very fantastic insights, and this was just to whet your appetite. Please speak to them after this session and tomorrow as well. Connect, collaborate. Let's make some money to develop our continent. So my closing remarks, thank you all for your attentive ears and cooperation. A massive thank you to the organizers, the New Africa, for this fantastic event. And my final comment before we clap, I think it goes without saying that in order to build the Africa that we want to see, we all have a role to play. As small as you may think it is, we all have a role to play. Please, again, connect, collaborate, and let the conversations leave this room. Actually take action. Hopefully, when we meet again next year, if Dr. Gift hosts us again, we'll be able to see some deals being signed, some things that have actually been done over the next year. So thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening.